The House task force investigating former President Donald Trump's apparent assassination attempt is getting briefed behind closed doors by the Secret Service today. Now, the task force had originally been investigating the failed July 13th assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. On Monday, it was expanded to include last weekend's incident at the Trump International Golf Course in Florida. The suspect in that case is facing multiple gun charges, but more charges are expected as the investigation moves forward. CBS News Homeland Security and Justice reporter Nicole Sganga joins us now from Washington with the latest on this. Nicole, where do things stand on all of these probes?
Yeah, Errol, investigators with the FBI and Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, combed through Ralph's home in Oahu Tuesday, trying to piece together how a man with a decades-long criminal record, a politically outspoken social media presence, and a passion for Ukraine, a passion that took him overseas, by the way, ended up in the tree line of the former president's golf course in the early hours of Sunday morning, where he hid for nearly 12 hours before an agent with the president's Secret Service detail spotted the barrel of his AK-47 during a rolling sweep, engaging the suspect before he fired off any shots. Now, the FBI says that while there's no information that Ralph acted with anyone else, they're still digging, piecing together a timeline of when exactly the 58-year-old suspect arrived in West Palm Beach, Florida. Part of that investigation, a full forensic scrub happening now of the suspect's SKS model, rifle, scope, multiple electronics, 2 bags, including a backpack. All of this evidence traveling 1,000 miles north to a lab in Quantico, Virginia.
What's interesting, Nicole, is that the Secret Service faced a lot of criticism for the failures that led to the Butler, Pennsylvania incident. On the flip side, former President Trump was giving them credit for finding this individual in Florida. What more are we learning about how the Secret Service responded that day?
An important distinction, Errol, and the former president's golf outing was what the U.S. Secret Service calls an off-the-record movement. And several current and former Secret Service members I've spoken to yesterday and today have compared it to when, say, former President Obama goes to a restaurant or the current president makes an unannounced stop for ice cream. Part of the challenge with an off-the-record movement is that those locations are not permanently protected. Officers are not assigned there. There's no counter-surveillance detail that scopes out the location days prior to the stop, like they might for a presidential campaign rally. And in this case, the Secret Service received little heads up about the trip. Still, the agency deployed a sort of roving protective footprint, what's called a moving bubble, that in this case scanned the course roughly 2 holes ahead of the president. It was then that agent scouring the tree line near the 6th hole green spotted the barrel of that assault weapon in the bushes as the former president was on the fairway of the 5th hole, out of line of sight. Now, I spoke with Paul Eckloff. He's a former Secret Service agent who was assistant detail leader for Trump during his presidency and has protected the former president at Trump International Golf Course in West Palm Beach multiple times. He called this a success by the U.S. Secret Service. Still, an important question here remains, and perhaps the FBI is looking into this now. This golf course surrounded by 4 busy roads right off of I-95. Why did no one on a Secret Service counter-surveillance detail spot the armed suspect from what is largely considered to be a blind spot there, the main road behind the fence line? Certainly a question for Acting Director Rowe to address in the coming days.
Yeah, really a key question, and I appreciate your specific descriptions of how the Secret Service protects a former president. Today, House Speaker Mike Johnson said he's asking the White House to give former President Trump the kind of Secret Service protection a sitting president gets, and now they are enhancing what Trump has. So can you help us understand what type of protection Trump is receiving now?
Yeah, and Errol, some of this is reading between the lines. I mean, U.S. Secret Service Acting Director Ron Rowe repeatedly said on Tuesday the former president is receiving the highest level of protection offered by the U.S. Secret Service. And he took the unusual step of outlining some of the security assets granted to Trump's detail: counter-assault teams, counter-drone teams, counter-sniper teams, counter-surveillance teams. That's that advanced detail. And speaking with former and current law enforcement officials, I'm told this level of Secret Service protection at this point is essentially what the sitting president, Joe Biden, receives, with a notable exception: Department of Defense assets like Air Force One. And the West Palm Beach Sheriff's Office also taking the extraordinary and, by the way, expensive step of closing down roads surrounding Mar-a-Lago that kind of traffic closure is typically reserved for presidential movements. Now, generally speaking, the sitting president and vice president of the United States are always the highest priority for Secret Service, whose priority is to safeguard continuity of government, aka protect the president and vice president so they can govern. Rose said Monday there's going to be a paradigm shift at this agency, one that pivots resources from a reactive model to a proactive model for agents in uniform. Remains to be seen exactly what that looks like, Errol.
All right, a comprehensive report from our Nicole Sganga in Washington. Thank you.